Jason, in the past few months, we've seen a lot of information emerge about Anthony Fauci's involvement in funding scientific research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Is Donald Trump angry that his top medical advisor on the coronavirus hid this from him in the early days of the outbreak?
I don't know if I'd describe President Trump's reaction as being angry about it. I think that at a certain point, he realized that Dr. Fauci was separated from reality, that Dr. Fauci is essentially a bureaucrat who's been in Washington for, I believe, now 7 presidencies, going back to 1984. He is the highest paid person in all of government, and seemingly everything that Dr. Anthony Fauci says is wrong. And so the president will frequently kind of laugh it off and say, I knew that I was on the right track if I was doing the opposite of what Dr. Anthony Fauci was saying. But the point that you make is something that's really important. That's the fact that not only was Dr. Fauci complicit in much of this activity, he was lying about it all the way through. And that's something where I like to use my First Amendment, my free speech rights, to say that I really do like Dr. Fauci. I think he should have been fired. I think he should be fired now. And I think it's a complete joke that he's been put in this power for so many presidencies. And I wish someone would just fire the guy. Well,
why didn't Trump fire Fauci?
I had suggested at a couple of points that he fire Dr. Fauci. I think there was probably one of the things that the president was cognizant about, and sometimes it's tough to do, to take the step back and be self-aware on this, but it would have turned Dr. Fauci into a martyr, in which case then Dr. Fauci would have been elevated on this magical plateau as if he was some demigod that came down from the sky in the eyes of the U.S. media. And I think President Trump realized that where Dr. Fauci was a voice in the process, he would be lifted to the all-powerful voice, and that probably wouldn't have been the smartest strategy.
Finally, Joe Biden announced in May a 90-day probe by the intelligence community into the origins of COVID-19. When Trump was president, do you think there was some resistance by parts of the intelligence community to actively investigate a lab leak?
I think you're really onto something. And Sherry, quite frankly, you've done a lot of the important investigative work on this, on the origins of the COVID-19 virus. And what I don't think a lot of folks realize is just how powerful big tech is in the United States. And let me give you an example. I used to think in my younger years of being in politics and in media that it was really the Democratic Party that controlled the media and big tech in the United States. But as I've become a little bit more seasoned, I've realized it's really big tech that controls the media and the Democratic Party. And there's so much of a desire by some of these big tech companies to not confront China, to let them have their way, because either A, they want the market access to 1.4 billion people, or they manufacture so many of their parts or products in China. And so there's a lot of pressure and a lot of aspects of government that we have to treat China with kid gloves, even if they're sending us a virus or threatening Taiwan or being aggressive in the South China Sea or stealing our technology, and the list goes on and on. And so I think systematically there's been a failure to confront China ever since they were given most favored nation status, and really the whole process for the last 20 years.